Welcome, 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 everyone. This is Breath of Life Conversations. Welcome back. I am your host, as you know, and I have a really special guest who is here to talk about identity and purpose, particularly for those who feel like they've lost it. And one of the my favorite lines that I have come across of this beautiful woman, who I will let her introduce herself in just a moment, is something that I read on one of her posts actually. And it says, I believe the most beautiful transformations begin when we speak what's been left unsaid. And so we're going to dive into this, and we're going to get real, and we're going to get raw here. And personally, I hope that I trigger the fuck out of y'all. Okay? Okay. So let's get into it. Please, will you introduce yourself to all of these beautiful listeners?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing me here well, I'm Hermence Matsotsa, and I'm a positive intelligence coach, but I like to say that I am the person who you can count on to listen and then at the same time help you get through. And that's always been like I've always been like I'm that bridge between where you think you are, where you think you should be, but then I'm that person in the middle that will just be like, you can do it. You can do it. Like and and my friends will, even beyond that, like my friends will tell you that I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I I just took my daughter ziplining. And people are like, how do you do that? I was like, yeah, because I cliff dive, I skydive. I like anything that says you should be scared of.
Oh,
My goal is to push a little further so you can get over that fear.
I
And
love
I
this
and
so
I think
much.
it's all about mindset to me. It's all about mindset. So yes, so I'm a positive intelligence coach, but I'm also a transformational leadership coach and trainer. And my goal is like, I strongly believe that we have the capacity to be our better selves if we
Yeah.
choose to change our mindset about what we think is reality and the people that we either let in or choose to keep out in our lives. So
Yeah.
that's in a
Oh,
nutshell, that's who I am.
beautiful.
Yeah,
So today we're here talking about identity and purpose,
right. Yeah,
truly.
yeah.
And I, as a medical intuitive, intuitive, professional intuitive, and registered nurse, as y'all already know, hear it a lot. I have a lot of people coming and asking me, am I supposed to be here? Am I
Mhm.
supposed to be doing this thing?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I'm not making a dent? Why do I feel like I'm not doing enough? When somebody comes to you and
Yeah.
says that, what is literally like the first real thought that goes through your head? Because I know what mine is.
You know, for me, it's not even a thought, but it's really a vision. When
Mm,
people come to me and are at a where they just I literally envision two things. I either envision them drowning
mm.
in an abyss almost like with no bottom and no top, but just drowning, and or I envision them in a place where walls are just coming in. And maybe it's because I'm claustrophobic. So maybe that's, like,
You guys, she's an adrenaline junkie and insomniac, and
exactly.
she's claustrophobic.
But I've worked on getting over that fear. I can get in elevators now, but there can't be too many people now. But it's just this idea of feeling stuck
Mm,
and it's uncomfortable.
mm.
And so that is the first. So it's like, what has you feeling stuck?
It's
And
really interesting because for me, you guys, Hermance is a much better person than I am. She like sees your like pain and like is like, oh, you know what? Let me like see where y'all are. Guys, my first thing is like, how the fuck did you get yourself stuck? Like, y'all act as if you're not the captain of your own boat.
yeah,
You are. You are. Now, this both of us here are going to talk about this and like help you get on track. But I just wanted you guys to see like the polar opposite. Like I
right,
literally am like,
right.
how the hell did y'all get yourself stuck here like this?
Yeah.
Like, why are you even asking this question? Whereas this is like,
See, my go-to first is empathy,
yeah,
though. So that's probably why, because my go-to first is like, oh my goodness, that has to be a terrible feeling. Then I move
Oh,
into,
yes.
what are
I'm
you
sure
doing
that
about it?
absolutely
Like, what are you
is.
doing
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, mine is like shock. Mine is like shock and awe. I was like, I can't imagine being in a place for myself, not
Yeah.
for others. I easily see it for others. I
Mhm,
easily see that like my personality is very different from everyone else's. So
mhm,
it would be, what's the word I'm looking for? It's unacceptable in like my own head to
mhm,
get to a place where I would be in that spot and then need to ask that question because immediately if I and I have been
mhm,
those, yeah, I won't
mhm.
bore you guys with my story, you all
Yeah.
already know it, but like I when I did get to that place where who I was being challenged because of my workplace
Mhm,
and what was happening to me and the abuse that I was sustaining, the first thought when that came through clearly was, I need help. And I immediately sought it.
right.
There was no like me sitting in the dark where I
Mhm,
think that there are so many people who are very very different than what
right.
I just like described, and they get lost in it. They get stuck in it and they
Yeah.
sit in the dark until something happens. And I think one of the things that we're going to touch on is an identity in particular around things like jobs or
Mm,
purpose,
yeah.
right? And impact.
Relationships. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And usually the thing that happens is like they get that feeling, but then they'll stay in the job, they'll stay in the relationship, they'll stay in wherever. And then something has to happen. Like they have to get fired
Right.
or they have to get put on like, probation, or
Yeah. The
their
person has to
person
leave
leaves
them.
them.
Right. Yeah. I know for me, my parents really are the ones who instilled this idea of like, you can complain, but only but so long about your
Mm.
situation. So my father was the kind when I came up, to him with a problem, what are you going to do about it? That's all he would say is like, what are you going to do about it? And then my mom would, then I came with her to another, she was like, do you think you're the only one with this issue? And like, so that's, those the dynamics in my house. So you could
All in
only
my
but feel
household.
bad about yourself for a split second because you had to do about it. So it was like, what are you going to do about it? And I don't really want to hear it because you're not the only one dealing with this. And
Mm.
so for me, I realized that oftentimes we allow the voices in our head to hijack
Mm.
us and keep us blinded from what we can do for ourselves. And that in itself is, how can I say, it's a very painful place to be,
Yeah.
because when you see yourself in the vision of how either society views you or family or friends or whatever, and you have no vision of your internal self, then you can't help but to be lost and frantic and have anxiety at all times because you truly
Yes.
don't know who you are, right?
Yes.
You haven't allowed your sage to really show itself. One of
Mm.
the things, exercises that I've done is asking people, when's the last time you looked in the mirror and
Mm.
saw past your body,
Mm.
like into your soul?
Yeah.
And people are like, what does that mean? I'm saying, like, you are literally looking in the mirror, but you're going beyond the lashes, beyond the nose structure,
Yes.
beyond the lips, beyond the complexion, beyond the hair. Like, you're
Yes.
literally looking into a vision, your sage, a vision of yourself, that light that's in you.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when's the last time you smiled about it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
too often
Yes.
we we are so hard on ourselves. Like, we are willing to give
Yes.
people the long leash, or we let people treat us any kind of way. And then the worst part is we allow people to create an identity for us that was never meant to be. Like I have, you say my daughter's intuitive. Like my daughter, ever since she came out, like for her, it was like M is for mission, P is for purpose, right? Like when you did the ABCs, that was like a 2 or 3, and I was just like, ooh, I prayed for God for a child who changed the world, and yeah, He gave it to me. But one of the things that she shared with me, you know, was the fact that some people come with a purpose and a mission,
Mm,
and some people come with a purpose but don't have their mission,
mhm.
right? And they are really going through life trying to figure out one or the other.
Yes. Yes.
And it's hard for some people. It's
Society
really hard.
tells us that we have to have purpose at base, but if we're really, really special, we
Right.
have a mission. And of course, because everyone wants to be special,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to have a mission.
Right.
And so they struggle and struggle and struggle to find it.
Yeah.
And they get really down on themselves
Right.
when they either can't find it or it's a long time coming or
Or
they try to like make it
right.
up
Or the
and
one they
it
thought
falls
they had
flat.
no longer feels good.
Exactly.
It no longer sits well with your spirit. And
Yes.
that is what I am finding with people that I coach, especially those who've just recently been laid off work.
Mm,
And, they come to me and they're like, can you give me some career coaching? And then after initial conversation, I'm like, maybe it's not the career coaching that we should start off with. Can we start off with mindset? Like, can we talk about why you were in that career in the first place? Did it bring you joy? Was it just because it paid the rent, the mortgage, the financial? I'm not discrediting the financial piece. What kind of spiritual joy did it bring you? And sometimes I share my example. Like I've worked in places where I took my breaks in the car, and my breaks wasn't a sandwich and eating food. It was me bawling and crying. And then I would put that mask back on and go back to the office like it was nothing. Like, how many of us are literally wearing masks every day
yeah.
and then come to a point where we realize the mask doesn't fit very well anymore?
Or we're walking on eggshells,
Walking on eggshells.
because if you lose this job or you lose that relationship, you have no idea what you're going to do.
Yeah, you haven't created a safety net for yourself. And I'm not talking about a financial, a spiritual safety net, an
Yes.
emotional safety net. And it's hard. Like I'm not, I always say it is hard and painful, but one of the things that my husband, helped me through when I was working at an agency, and then they had to, I was one of the people that got let go. And I'm like over here just like bawling and he was like, some of the things you got to go through. Like you got to
Yeah.
go through the pain. You got to go through the emotions. Like I'm one of those people, I advocate screaming at the top of your lungs. Like
Just get it out.
you just get it out. Just get it out. You have to, because the more we keep all of that energy bottled up, eventually it will come out, but it won't come out in a way that is cleansing,
Mm,
right? And so it's like we have to find ways to release the energy,
yeah.
the energy that is within us, the pain, the hurt. And one of the things I realize also is especially for women, like asking for help. Like, you brought up the fact that, you knew, like, if you need to do something, you knew you could, like, yeah, I need help. But sis, a lot of women, a lot of people, but women,
Because what is, and I mean, I will be honest, it existed for me as well. And I think that was because I grew up in a similar household where I heard those same things that you were talking about
mhm,
from your parent. Like my mom, single mom, but she said those exact same things. Like, you don't have any luxury
yeah,
of not having a plan. So have a
Yeah.
plan. Like, you feel bad for yourself, but you've got about 3 seconds and then you need to move on. That was
Mhm.
what I heard. And I think because of that, and because of the fact that, my mom was a single mom, so like having to have trust in it was yourself and it was God.
Right.
Like, end of story. Like, those are the two people who were going to matter, who are going to count,
Yeah.
who are going to take care of you.
Mhm.
You and God. That's
Yeah.
it. Even though I grew up in that, right? The other thing that I also really grew up in was this notion of from society that as a woman I couldn't be broken.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
You didn't
I
have the
couldn't have
luxury to
problems
or show that you were broken.
or show it. Exactly. Like, fine at being broken. You know what? Thank you for pointing out that nuance, because yeah, we're all going to be broken, right? There are going to be
Right.
times when, shit's not working,
Yeah.
right? But as a woman, particularly in America, particularly as a Black woman,
Mhm.
there are just some things that you can't acknowledge,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so when things are shaky, like, who am I?
Yeah.
Then you realize you have two options. You either ignore the hell out of it,
Yeah.
which is what so many people do,
Mhm.
because they just don't know the right question to ask or who
Yeah.
to ask it to them, to
Mhm.
to them, to whom to ask it.
Right.
Um, and or you don't have that blockage, and you
Right.
you do you do move past, you move
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like you were saying, nowadays I think there are so many individuals, a lot of them women, that don't know who they are outside of their job or outside of their motherhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of women that I work with who are like, well, I'm a mom.
Yeah. When you
I'm a mom.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm definitely guilty of that. Just like like looking at your identity. So that causes myself including us to mourn an identity that we had, right? And think of the past a lot and then really keeps us from like thinking about the possibilities.
Mm,
I talk a lot about what is the opportunity and benefit in whatever situation has you feeling stuck, has you
yes.
feeling like the world is about to crumble, has you like in this moment. Because if you're constantly thinking about the past, was it really that much better? Or is it just because it's so far away that? And then it's like, really, is the future really going to be that much worse if you don't know what it is, right? So a lot of times we call ourselves living in the present, but we're not. We're mourning something, a lost identity. We're mourning self,
Yeah.
right? And so, you mentioned earlier about just how women just internalize all of this, right? And what society's telling us and how we should look, how we should walk, how we should do everything. And then particularly as Black women, one of the reasons, because I was like, why is it's because honestly, sis, when we are not, we're taking care of the planet right now.
Mm,
Like
mm.
us broken means broken planet. And that
Preach.
is why you see, like, I mean, proof is that when we decide to stay home and learn the fan dance or whatever that is, right? You've seen some of these protests, right? I mean,
100.
right. But regardless, it's just like, I don't know if it's just a universal gift that's been given to women as, carriers of life. But we're not just carriers of life, we sustain life.
Yes.
And deep, deep down, we know that's the case. So it's
Mm,
almost like a responsibility that we hold, regardless if we're giving birth to a child or taking care of a plant, right? It's just the
yes.
sense of responsibility, and it's heavy, and it's heavy.
Yes.
So heavy that at
Yes.
times, when we're not given space to just breathe, we can't help but crumble.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you see as the response? Like, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are listening who are like, oh my gosh, yes, I relate to this 100%. Like, I
Mhm,
don't know who the hell I am without my job, without my spouse, without my kids.
mhm,
I like, so what is it that you think, in your opinion, is where we start? I know that you were talking about mindset, and I absolutely
yeah,
love that, but I'm
mhm,
just curious as to like where your expertise takes you in regards to that, because
mhm,
I think there's a lot of people who would basically go through all of the different ways in which they could quote unquote identify as, realize that all of those things are just labels or
mhm,
just, aspects of self, or just segments of who we
mhm.
be. And they're afraid that we're going to ask that next question, which is, well, like, take that away and what are you? Take that away and what are you? Take that away, what are you? And they're going to get down to the base and they're going to be like, I don't know. I
Right,
don't
it's like
know. So
peeling
what
that
is the
onion,
right
right?
answer?
Yeah, it's like peeling. Well,
Like,
the thing is, that's why, I stress this idea of becoming. Like for me, I start with like, okay, you may not know, but like, what brings you an inkling of joy? Like, what is, and not joy externally, but I'm talking about what are the thoughts that without knowing it, you just smile? Is, when you're taking that walk, what is that sight you see? What is that sound? Like, I really believe that part of the reason why we are not knowing ourselves is because we have disconnected from our roots, and meaning root meaning the planet earth. Like, we don't go out and just plant our feet and feel the heartbeat of this planet, and we're disconnected from a lot of the things that makes every other species like live.
yes. It
And
really sounds like you're talking about like truly reconnecting
yeah,
to the present,
yeah,
because like you said, going outside and asking yourself, what sound out here makes me smile. I can hear all of y'all. Okay. All of y'all are sitting here going, I don't know. When was the last time I listened to a bird? I don't even know what birds are out in my neighborhood right now. Or I don't know what the smell of grass is. When was the last time I smelled grass that wasn't just cut
yeah,
grass? You
yeah.
got, like, I hear all of you. So,
Has to be intentional, right? It has to be intentional. So you may not know now, but what's keeping you from seeking? What's really keeping you from seeking? Because you're doing yourself a disservice if you're saying, well, I don't, this is happening, but then you're not even taking seconds to reconnect.
yeah.
And a lot of it is because as much as people complain about their present self situation reality, they fear anything else.
It is for anybody who's like, where do I start? Well, start here and asking those questions.
Right.
Like, asking about who you think you be
Mm-hmm.
when you strip away the titles,
Yeah. Right.
you know?
Exactly. Like literally be naked of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing I always think the beauty about having the opportunity to wake up and have the next breath is the acknowledgement that this is a do-over. Like you can do
Yes.
over. You can reimagine yourself. You can reinvent yourself. And so one of the questions I often ask the individuals that I work with is, how would you reinvent yourself? And what would that look like, feel like, smell like, like what would that be? But you could not rely on anything from your past.
Ooh.
And best of all, you had all the support in the world.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Who would you be? What would you be doing? How would you be contributing to this world? How would you be contributing to yourself? Like we are capable. And the reinvention doesn't have to be something grand, right? I don't give advice. Oh, I've always wanted to be a singer, but I know I can't sing. But I could take vocal
Everybody could
lessons, right?
sing.
To make me feel like I can sing. But I'm not talking about doing something grand. The reinvention of oneself could easily be just like learning to do some self love in the
Yeah.
morning, right? So it's oftentimes we forget that we every day we wake up, it's another opportunity to not only reinvent ourselves, but to be the person that we really want to be. And
Mhm.
it's a journey. Too often we're like, okay, we set these timelines. Yes, it's great to plan and have timelines, right? And
Yes.
goals and objectives, but life in general is a journey. Like the destination is whining. There's no final point until you take that last breath.
Yes.
You're gonna
Thank you
do
so
it
much
one
for
more
bringing that up
time.
because I think so often people number either want it to be so fast, so quick, instant
Right,
gratification.
right.
I see that a lot. People, I have two different types of offerings, long term and short term,
Mhm.
for people who want to work with me. And short term is typically what people choose. And then when I tell them this is going to take some time,
They need more.
they're like, "Wait, what?" And I
Yeah.
was like,
I'm not gonna wake up
"Well,
tomorrow and feel better. Hey,
like
yeah.
and I try to explain to people, you know what, it would probably have been a lot cheaper if you just asked me, like, what how long do you think this is relatively gonna take?
Right,
And then
exactly.
I can say, well, you're gonna need 3 to 6 months,
Mhm.
like, to work through this type of thing doesn't happen
Well,
instantaneously.
the thing is, look how long it took. Look how long you've been living in that. So you and after
Exactly.
3 months, it's just gonna be, I give the example, I'm like, it's not like, weight loss. Well, it could be. Like, it takes you forever to lose that weight, but
Oh yeah.
quickly, so vice versa. But
Yeah.
it's but I've a lot of it. That one of the reasons why I named my company Ubuntu Speaks, based off the South African philosophy of Ubuntu. I am who I am because we all are, is because of this, and it's a Ubuntu, the word itself is from South Africa, Zulu. However, it is a philosophy that's shared throughout the continent. My mother's Gabonese, and my father's American. So I was, my mother really still tried. She was better than some, in that sense. She wasn't like pushy, like this is the African way, this is the Gabonese way. But she did want to raise us understanding this idea of community. And not only community doesn't just have to be family, it's the people you allow in your life that you are going to grow with, support, but then that they're going to support you at the same time.
One of the who was I listening to? Oh my gosh. Trevor Noah. That was it.
Yes, yes.
Um, where whoever him and whoever his guests were, they were talking about this idea that exactly what you're talking about of like the tribe, the village,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how important it is. And talking about how in America we were all like, no, independence. We can do it on our own.
Oh, yeah,
Then they realized, nah, you need some help. You need some help. So what they did instead of just like coming back together as a collective, being like, y'all, I need help. And then listening to the other person going, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. What we did, we just bought back the community. So we pay the nanny instead of having the next door neighbor, the auntie, the grandma
exactly.
that's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm home today.
It was
I'll help.
transactional instead of
Everything
spiritual,
now.
emotional, right?
Yes,
And it's communal.
everything is when we need the nanny, when we need the
Hmm.
cleaning lady, when we need the plumber, when we need the whatever. It's not going to your community saying, "Hey, what skill do you have?
Exactly.
And how can I trade with you? Like, oh,
Right.
you have this skill, I have this skill. Next time that you need this, I'll help you with that. Just come and ask me. I'm
Hmm.
there for you." We now are paying for all of those things,
And
for
we don't
that
know our neighbors,
community.
right? We don't
And we
know.
don't know our neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so is it any wonder that we lose our footing
Right.
completely, and our entire foundations get rocked when we've put everything into the fact that we're a doctor or we're a lawyer.
Exactly. And that sense of loneliness is is what has many people turning to alcohol, turning to drugs, turning, that oftentimes will also bring
Yeah.
depression
Yeah.
because we're not meant to
Yeah.
be
It's killing
alone.
people.
It's killing people. We're not meant
Yeah.
as a species, as a people, as humankind. We are not meant to, we're not solitary creatures. But at the same time, we need to learn how to live with ourselves. Right?
Yes.
We need
let's
to
let's talk
understand
about
that.
that. Yeah, let's talk about that because now, like, I'm sure you can like hear it too. All the people be like, okay, great, like I'll have like all of my people and I'll rely on myself or nothing. And then it is this very delicate balance. Y'all, you have been around me for any length of time. You know that I love this phrase. You have to be able to hold two truths simultaneously.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that is what being human is all about.
Mhm.
You are not here just to serve someone else. You are here to have an experience, to truly experience life. And that is why
Yeah.
Hermance is talking about going out and reconnecting with the land. Go and reconnect with yourself. Change the way that you're thinking about how you're living your life and why you're here and what it is that you want to do, what gives you joy, allows you to smile, because that is you having experiences. That is you fulfilling yourself.
Right.
Purpose, the mission, yes, it's important, absolutely it is. If you, and like, it's a conversation for a whole nother day. There are multiple different types of purposes,
Purpose
people.
and mission. Yeah. Yeah. But realizing that
But
you can create that too. Like you create you can create, and sometimes with help, but the life you want to live, right? How can I say, it's like it starts with that vision. I really do. And mind you, I'm not saying there's not going to be obstacles. There's not going to be, things that hijack all of that. But if we just look at history, and I'm always teaching my daughter, we're like big history, you know. And my favorite person all throughout, Harriet Tubman, like, I mean, I just know somehow I was her girl back in the day, right? I was somewhere around her mess. But when you get deeper into it, if you read her biography, if you just see, like, there's one picture where she's like 80 something. I mean, she just sitting there just like hard.
to the
And
boss,
you're
yeah.
like, this woman right here, when I think of all the things she went through, saw,
Mm.
and came through, like, but and she had the visions. And it talks about these visions she would have, right? She would, pass out and then she would have these visions. She had a vision and she saw it and she trusted it and she went with it. How many of us are giving ourselves time to envision something other than what we're going through right now and trust it and go with it?
Yeah. That is something that I think a lot of people don't understand truly, is like the gift that it is to have the space, the time, the freedom, the safety
Mm-hmm.
to be able to envision what we want for ourselves and to envision who we are, sometimes at our worst moments,
At our worst moment.
without having to be forced, right? So, like, by worst moments, I'm talking about things like, you lose your job
Mm-hmm.
and now you're sitting at home the day or 2 weeks, or 2 weeks, in the day or two after you've lost your job, and you're sitting here wondering, I don't know what it is
What do
I'm
I do
supposed to do.
now?
What do I do now? When you've lost the love of your life, seemingly the love of your life, and you're like, whether by accident or by choice,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I don't know how to breathe. The thing is that at the end of the day, nobody is coming after you. You
Mhm.
have safety and time
To breathe.
to envision and breathe. Yes, to breathe
Mhm.
and to create something better than even what you had before.
Or yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because that is truly like, if somebody asked me, well, who am I? Sans all of the things, my easiest answer for people is you're the creator.
Right.
You're the
Mm,
creator.
yeah.
Whether you believe that to mean that you are one with creator, that's
Mhm.
something greater that created all of
Mhm.
this, or if you think of it as nope, that creator has to be separate from me, which is
Mhm.
totally fine. Like whatever,
Right.
think whatever you want.
Mhm.
It's not the way I think about it, but if you need that separation, that's fine. You can also just think of it as like the creator, as a in like a painter is a, you are the creator.
Mhm.
So now instead of
Manifest.
unlike, exactly, and unlike Harriet Tubman, who was literally like running for her life all the time, right? And other of the greats, right? One of the things that I never begrudged the greats, because I'm like, y'all went through shit that I like do not want to have to go through. So thank
Like,
you.
but and you know the saying, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams.
I love
And
that saying.
and
Yes.
and if you and you know, I got the chills thinking about like my when I think of just how although they may not or maybe they did see that far, they lived beyond who they were. How you move in this world, you're thinking beyond yourself, at least 7 generations. And I was like, wow, imagine if we moved in that way. So it
Yeah.
would be like, this moment is not fixed because you know what? I got to look for. There's things we can do. We can write that beautiful poem and release it to the world, knowing that it's going to inspire other people to do so.
Yes.
Right? And too often we're just like, oh, I can't do it. Like, what is it that you can't do?
Mm,
What is it that you're keeping yourself from doing?
mm,
Identify that first, right?
yes. Yes. Like take your power back.
Take it
Take your
back.
power back.
Yeah.
Wherever you gave it, whether it's that job, that person, that whatever,
Mhm.
it's never too late to
It's
take
never
it back.
I talk about positive you know, peak we call them PQ reps, but it's positive intelligence, like repetitional breathing exercise, vision exercise, where it's like walking yourself through, like envisioning your favorite color. Like I do this exercise. What is your happy color? And then I walk you through you going to a place where all you see is your happy color. And what is that doing for you? What you know, what images is that stirring for you and why? Like sometimes not sometimes, the majority of our self-care has to be internal. It has to come internally. Because if not, then after a while, you're not going to see it as self-care anymore. You're going to see it as a chore, right? And people are going to you're going to feel like when people don't show up to help you with that self-care, when sometimes when I've coached. I remember I had someone that I used to coach on a regular basis. And one day I had to cancel the session and she lost it. And I was like, I've given you and shared with you the tools. Like, you can really have your own. I have some journal questions I can share with you, right? For you to take that time and reflect. And she was like, well, I'm paying you, and this is what it's one time. Like, we can reschedule this. But I realized that she was dependent on me now for her joy and for her healing. And that
Yes.
can be dangerous. I mean, do you find that at times too that
Yes. And I have had, it'll definitely be another, maybe we'll do a part two.
okay, yeah.
Um, um, but, or not even a part two, because it'll be a completely different conversation, but a different topic. But the topic of how I absolutely despise the healers that, or they call themselves healers, or they call themselves intuitors or light workers or whatever, that their goal is not to teach their people, their clients or students, their
Mhm.
whatever,
Keep them
how to be healthy and safe and at peace without them.
without them. Yeah.
As a healer, it is my job to teach you what it is that you need to do
Right.
in your life and how to assess your own body
Right.
during every particular situation so that you can then say, oh, this is what's wrong with me. Abigail taught me that. I know how to fix that. It
Exactly.
is
This is the pain.
not
The
my
pain
job
is
to
here.
make you
Right. Yeah.
dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely not. Do I want to continue to see people and yeah, like
Yeah.
I do not want you coming to me because I haven't taught you what it is that you need in order to be self-reliant. It is my job to help you become self-reliant.
Right.
Too many people out there
Right.
who are in a quote unquote professional status
Mm-hmm.
that would rather
Have the
you
person dependent.
continue, yep, to keep you on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
It's not even me getting you off of the hamster wheel. I want to get you up, but I want to bust that shit to pieces because it is
Right.
nonsensical.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, that is a completely different conversation. But
Yes. Yes.
yes, I
Yeah.
agree with you. I agree
No,
with you.
it's true. And the thing is, it's like all of that, again, back to this idea of identity, clouds, your your development, your transformation of the person you know yourself to be and want to be, right? Because everything becomes transactional, and then you're left like where you need someone to help justify like,
Yes.
I've also worked with individuals who, like, when I say, well, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, and they were like, you mean like what I do? No, let's start with who you are. And they were like, well, I'm a doctor. I know that's what you do. Okay, let's get back. That's why when you asked me to tell me a little bit about yourself, I told you genuinely who I know myself to be, not the fact
Yes.
that I'm a CEO and founder of Ubuntu Speaks, right? That's what I
Yes.
do, right? Coaching and speaking and training, that's what I do. But who I am, like I said, that facilitator, that bridge. That's who I see myself to be. And that, insomniac at the same time, that adrenaline junkie, right? Right? Who feels as though like I all about you coming or me, myself coming to the edge and just pushing through, testing the limit. We have to find ways. We have to almost find not even joy in testing ourselves to be better than we were yesterday, to be happier than we were yesterday, to be the person that we never imagined we could be, but always dreamed about.
Yes. Oh,
And
I
that
could
is
not
that
have said
journey.
it better myself. Thank you so, so, so much.
You're welcome,
Sis,
Abigail.
please tell us how we can work with you. Tell us where we can find you, where we can follow you, where we can like just binge
Yes.
all of your content and get smarter and healthier and happier.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, also on Facebook. So just put Hermence Matsotsa-Cross. And also my email address is Hermence at Ubuntu, Ubuntu, workforce.com. And then I also, like yourself, I have a podcast called Conversations Spoken in the Dark.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Absolutely all of this information is going to be down in the show notes. You jump down there, you will find it. You will find all of the links and stuff to find her and be able to work with her and listen to her podcast. I'll link that as well. Thank you, Herman, so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
And
This was
you're
so
going to consider
amazing.
coming on my podcast as well, right?
Absolutely. I am
Okay,
there.
all
I am
right.
there. I am so there. The voices
Yes,
that I have during the dark, let me tell you. My
I
ancestors
feel
be
you.
speaking. So
Yes.
absolutely, I'm there with you. You just let me know when and where.
All
All
right.
right,
Awesome.
everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Breath of Life Conversations. You know, the next one is going to be just as juicy. So keep on listening, keep on following, and let us know what you thought about this conversation. Bye, everyone.